The shot echoed through the forest like a thunderclap. And then, chaos. Snow exploded into the air as Misha lunged, 800 pounds of furious instinct crashing down the slope. He barreled straight into the gunman, who barely had time to scream before being knocked clean off his feet. The rifle flew from his hands, spinning into the snow. Misha didn't maul him. He didn't need to. The sheer force of his tackle sent the man tumbling backward into the ravine wall, winded, gasping, stunned. Lena, frozen in place just seconds ago, kicked herself into motion. She crawled backward, scrambling through the snow, her coat torn, knees scraped. She slid behind a thick, fallen tree and curled behind it, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. From her cover, she peeked. The second robber had already turned to flee, panic in every wild swing of his limbs. "Nope, nope, I'm done, I'm out," he shouted, crashing through the underbrush like a wild animal. But Misha wasn't done. In a blur of movement, the bear pivoted, cutting through the snow like wind. Trees cracked under his weight. The man screamed as a wall of fur and fury intercepted him. Misha, rising to his full height, roaring directly in the man's face. The robber dropped to his knees, trembling, dropping his weapon and sobbing, "Please, God, don't." But Misha didn't strike. He growled, low, guttural, a warning, and then he turned away. Back near the ravine, the third man had found his wits and his desperation. His hand shot out, grabbing Lena from behind the tree. "Come here," he hissed, dragging her upright. "No, let go of me." He wrapped an arm around her chest and shoved a small knife against her side, turning her toward the bear like a shield. Misha had returned, snow dusting his fur, breath steaming in the frozen air. He stopped cold when he saw her trapped. The knife glinted. The man's voice cracked. "Back off. I swear I'll hurt her. Stay back." Misha didn't move. His massive chest heaved once. His lips pulled back just slightly, revealing the glint of sharp teeth. His eyes, black and unwavering, locked on Lena's. Lena looked into them and saw understanding. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Her voice trembled but stayed clear. "Please," she whispered, her eyes pleading with the bear. "Let me go. I'm okay. I'm okay." Misha made a low, deep rumble that vibrated through the ground. Not a roar this time. Something else. Something soft. Something listening. The robber's grip loosened. Not because he chose to, but because Lena stopped resisting. She stepped forward, slowly, calmly, out of his grip. And then she ran. Not away, not into the forest, but straight to Misha's side. The final man stumbled backward. "No, no, no, this isn't real," he muttered, staring at the girl now standing beside a giant bear like it was her pet dog. He dropped his knife. Lena looked at him, her breath visible in the cold air. "Go," she said quietly. Misha didn't move, but the growl started again, low, deep, almost like a drumbeat beneath the earth. It rumbled through the trees, through the man's bones, until he couldn't take it anymore. He turned and ran. No one chased him. The forest fell quiet again. Only the soft whump of fresh snow drifting from the trees remained. The ravine, the branches, the broken trail behind them, everything felt suspended in time. Lena stood in the snow, panting, shoulders trembling, lips blue from cold. She turned and looked up at the bear beside her. He looked back. "Misha," she whispered, stepping forward and wrapping her arms as far as she could around his thick, warm neck. "You saved me." He didn't move, just leaned into her touch. And in that moment she understood something she hadn't before. He had been there the whole time, watching from the trees, watching when the men followed her, watching when she ran, when she fell, when she was grabbed. He had waited for the exact moment she needed him the most. Not just to scare, but to act. Not just to protect, but to protect on her terms. And when she'd called out, he had answered. Not because he was tame, not because she'd raised him, because she was his and he was hers. They stood together in the snow, the silence wrapping around them like a blanket. Misha snorted, then nudged her gently, as if to say, "It's over." Lena looked toward the slope. "Let's go home." The sun had dropped lower, tinting the snowy trees an amber light as they trudged back toward the cabin. Lena's arm was wrapped around Misha's neck for warmth and support. He moved slowly now, his fury spent, just a shadow walking beside her. The smell of smoke reached her first. Familiar, comforting. She smiled, just a little, relieved to finally see the cabin through the trees. But something was wrong. She stopped walking. The door was open, swinging slightly in the wind. One of the shutters on the side had been broken off its hinge, and the window above the hearth had a crack running through it. Lena's stomach twisted. "Grandpa!" She ran the last few steps, stumbling into the doorway. "Grandpa!" No answer. The fire still burned in the hearth, but weakly. A cup of tea lay spilled near the rocking chair. The blankets were bunched up, like someone had stood up suddenly, and fast. Lena turned, panic rising. Misha stood at the door, ears pricked, body still. Lena's breath came shallow now. The fight in the woods hadn't been the end. It was just the beginning. Lena burst through the cabin door, eyes scanning the room with desperate urgency. "Grandpa!" But silence met her. The fireplace crackled weakly, the warmth inside clashing with the cold panic rising in her chest. A blanket lay crumpled on the floor. The table had been bumped out of place. The teacup he always used was on its side, shattered, a dark stain of cold tea bleeding into the rug. "No," she whispered, rushing toward the back of the house. "Grandpa!" She threw open the rear door and stopped cold. A faint, muffled groan drifted from behind the woodshed. She sprinted toward the sound, Misha thundering behind her like a shadow. There. Her grandfather slumped on his side, his hands bound behind him with rope, a cloth stuffed in his mouth, bruises painting his cheek and temple. "Grandpa!" she cried, dropping to her knees. Her frozen fingers fought the knots, her breath hitching in panic. I'm here now. You're okay." Behind her, Misha stood watchful and still, his massive head turning as if to make sure no other threats approached. Her grandfather blinked up at them, dazed. When the gag came loose, he coughed hard, then looked past her at the bear. His voice, raspy and weak, still carried weight. "Lena," he breathed. "That bear, it saved you?" She nodded, tears spilling freely now. "Every time," she said. Together, Lena and Misha dragged her grandfather gently back into the cabin. Misha remained by the door, his breath fogging the cold air. He did not come inside, just stood guard, quiet and alert. Lena tended to her grandfather with water and clean cloths. He grunted through the pain but never looked away from Misha. There was something in his eyes, conflict, confusion, and then, slowly, acceptance. "I remember when you found him," he murmured. "Just a cub, eyes barely open." Lena pressed a wet rag to his bruised face. "You said it was dangerous," she whispered. He gave a tired, crooked smile. "I wasn't wrong. He is dangerous." He turned his gaze toward the bear, still waiting by the door. "But not to you." A moment passed, thick with meaning. Then Misha stepped forward. Lena froze, but the bear didn't growl, didn't rear back. Instead, he lowered his massive head, not to Lena, but to her grandfather. A bow, subtle but deliberate. Her grandfather blinked, stunned. He looked down at the bear, and slowly, weakly, reached out. His fingertips brushed Misha's thick fur. No snarls, no fear, just stillness and peace. "Well," he said softly, "maybe I was wrong about some things." Hours passed. The sky lightened from gray to pale gold. Just as the horizon began to warm with the early blush of dawn, the sound of engines echoed faintly through the trees. Then tires crunching snow. 2 forest patrol trucks appeared along the tree line, lights spinning, stopping short at the edge of the clearing. Rangers stepped out, weapons slung but not raised. One of them called out, "We heard gunshots near the checkpoint. Everything all right up here?" Lena stood on the porch, Misha behind her. She didn't smile, but her voice was steady. "Not really, but it's over now." Inside the cabin, she told them everything. About the three men, the chase, the fall, the roar, about Misha. The Rangers exchanged wide-eyed glances. One leaned forward. "You're saying the bear fought them off?" "He didn't just fight them," her grandfather said quietly from his seat by the fire. "He waited. He watched. He protected her." The youngest ranger muttered under his breath, "That bear didn't protect her like a pet." He looked at Lena. "It fought like a guardian." Lena didn't answer. She didn't have to. When the patrolmen left, promising to send backup and search for the remaining intruders, the forest returned to silence. Misha stood at the edge of the clearing now, staring toward the woods. Lena followed him. She climbed the ridge behind the cabin where the sky stretched wide above the treetops, and the forest spread out below like an endless living ocean. Misha sat beside her, just like he used to when he was smaller, when they were both unsure of the world and found comfort in each other's company. The wind tugged at her hair. "They thought I was alone," she said quietly. She looked at him, her eyes glassy but calm. "But I never was." Misha blinked slowly. His ears twitched. A soft grunt escaped him, almost like agreement. They sat there, the girl and the bear, watching the sun begin its slow climb into the sky. Finally, Misha rose. He turned to her. One last time. For a long, silent moment, their eyes met. And then he stepped away, lumbering toward the trees, the shadows, the wild. Lena didn't stop him, but as he reached the edge of the woods, he paused, turned, looked back. Her heart clenched. "Go," she whispered. Her voice broke, but her smile held steady. "I'll be okay now." Misha stood a moment longer, and then the trees swallowed him whole.